Hi, I'm Dr. Courtney Harris,
And I'm Crystal Harris.
and we are with Beyond the Four Walls, and this is the next edition of the Never Quit Marriage series. And today's edition is going to cover
Hard times.
hard times. Let's get right to it. We all face hard times at some time or another in life, and more specifically in marriage. Hard times come up a number of times during the duration of a marriage, whether you're married, been married a year or 10 years. I'm sure we all have some type of testimony of a difficult time that we have experienced. Um,
Definitely in the beginning years.
yeah, hard times are usually common in the beginning because you have two people coming from two total different backgrounds, two lifestyle differences, cultural differences in some cases,
Yes.
economic differences in some cases.
We were raised in two separate homes. So the way that our upbringing may be different from the other. So
Educational differences,
hmm
all of those play a part in the potential friction um,
in a
in
marriage.
newlyweds in that early stage of marriage. And
Yes.
we would like to maybe discuss just a little bit of some of the things we went through and discuss where we are going on 16 years later.
Yes.
So this is a testament that
You can get through it.
you can make it. And not just make it through, about to die, but make it through with a sense of accomplishment. And you know what, man, I didn't think we were gonna make it, but we made it because we decided to make some changes, some very needed changes. And I know for me personally, I had to take stock of my own things, character traits and practices that needed to be adjusted and some eliminated in order for our marriage to survive those hard times.
And with me, I guess our family was more laid back and relaxed. So there wasn't much that was required of us. So coming from Courtney, who's very active and very ongoing, I had to pick up the pace and do more than what I was accustomed to.
So even now, hearing her say that she felt she had to pick up the pace, um, one of the things that caused that initial friction early on is because I put that type of pressure on her to sort of be like I was.
But I'm not like you, but we're at a balance.
Right,
Like he's still super fast and I'm still mellow, but I know how to adjust when needed.
right. And that's the thing that we realized years later is that, you know what, it's not important for her to be like me. It's not necessarily important for me to be like her, but we have to find
Happy
that
medium.
common ground. And that's where the hard time comes in when you don't know how to navigate those differences and be respectful and still loving at the same time. People go through those hard times, and you've all heard them. People get in fights. There's domestic violence. There's separation, of course. There's divorce. All those things that we don't condone, we don't endorse. Now, then sometimes there's even murder. I've in recent times I've heard a
Yes.
number of stories where, unfortunately, the husband has killed his young wife, young in terms of how long they've been married,
Right.
just because they were unable to handle the strain of the difference. Um, but we encourage everyone to
Yes.
communicate. Communication is of utmost importance because it lets the other person know where you are.
hmm Now, one thing I wanted to say about those hard times and just some of the feelings that I know that I had in those hard times, and one of them was definitely from the initial stage. I felt like I miss God. I felt like, I don't know if Courtney, if we spoken in detail about it, but I felt like I had made a serious mistake. But God, what the devil meant for evil, God work out for our good. It's just God has continued to just bless us tremendously. The devil wanted us to give up. He wanted us to just hate each other and not make it in our marriage. But I'm telling you, through God be the glory that we were able to get through it. Now that was the initial stage of how I felt. How I felt. How did you feel
Uh,
in the
initially,
beginning?
initially it was like she alluded to earlier. I've always been a person that has been self-motivated to do what I needed to do without any encouragement from outside sources. And like she said earlier, that's not her testimony of her background. So initially, I just felt like, man, I felt she was lazy. I felt like, man, we were supposed to be doing these things together, and I felt like it was me, just me, trying to move forward in a lot of areas of our life. Um, so initially, that's how I felt, and that feeling that I had manifests itself in me. Unlike her, she felt like she had missed God, but me, it felt like I had to direct everything that she was doing, or micromanage, if you like that term better, which also caused additional strain because, I, from the beginning, I wanted to be married. I wanted to be married since I was 18, I believe I wanted to get married, and I got married at 21. So, I felt like I could, with my character, I felt like I could fix the issue that I saw by, constantly driving her to do this, and that. But when that didn't work, frustration came and within me because, hey, why is this not working? This is what I think it ought to be. And it was really no relenting because I just felt like, okay, well, let's try a different way to get to the same place. Unfortunately, those different ways trying to get to that place where we are today came in the way of negativity and, like I said, micromanagement instead of today encouragement and space, giving her space to get to ultimately in a marriage, you want the best for your spouse.
Yes.
So um, you're not gonna really intentionally, unless you just evil, do something to try to get them to be a better person or to be better at whatever they love to do. Um, Crystal's been great with encouraging me to do some of the things that I've wanted to do, and even some stuff that I wanted to quit on, to give up, just because again, going back to my type of character, I wasn't seeing results quick enough. So I felt, you know what, maybe I'll just wrap that up and move on to something else.
So basically, the position was he tried to figure it out on his own, to work the issues out in me, and that's not our approach. That's not the way that we should approach our marriage. Mm-hmm. We definitely want to accept the character that they have, and pray for God to show them a balance in how to become better beings for God, okay, and for our relationship to really work. Sometimes we want to take things in our control and under our wings and hands and try to figure out how can we make this situation better. But ultimately, as children of God, we should give those things over to Christ. Right. We have to pray, right? Prayer should be our first result before anything.
Yeah, we definitely want to consult God first. And the scripture that I love is Luke 1:37, where it says, "For with God nothing shall be impossible." And today where I am, as opposed to 10, 15 years ago, is that, like she said, I was trying to work everything out. And, whether you are a believer in Christ or not, there are some things that you can accomplish on your own. Definitely, we don't want to say that you can't get some things done by being proactive, mm-hmm. by being motivating to others. Yeah, definitely, there's some things you can do. But when you reach the end of what you can do, our position is that because we depend on God being the creator of mankind, mm-hmm. We know that He has the best way for things to work. Because, just like a manufacturer knows, yes. Chevy dealer, you're going to take your car to Chevy dealer because they made it. They know what works best. So the same thing with God. He created us. So I'm not going to try to, in my own limited understanding, try to figure out how to fix or get someone else to go to a point. I can offer, what, maybe if you do this, that might help. But if that person is not receptive, then we have found greater success in giving that to the Lord. And how does that look? We don't just say, well, we give it to the Lord and continue doing the same thing we do. Mm-hmm. No, that's not really giving it to the Lord, because you're still trying to accomplish it in your own power. But for me, with my example of being a more proactive person and Crystal being a little bit more laid back, psychology folks, type A, type B personalities, giving that to God means that, what, I love my wife. I want the best for her. Mm-hmm. So, Lord, that I would like to see her doing some other things, but in your timing, help me to be a little bit more patient with her,
Patience is
because
key.
it's like putting water on grassy, it, on her end. It helps me in being patient to allow God to do His work, and also to work in me. It's not so much about the other person when we talk about hard times, because you view
Yes.
it two different ways. You got to address why you are having an issue with whatever's going on, and address that first, because a lot of times it might not really be an issue with the other person as it is with you.
Yes, that's
So
true.
again, as we are where we are today, looking back, hindsight, as they say, is 2020, which is 100% true. I shouldn't have been trying to micromanage her to the extent that it caused a strain on our relationship.
The
Right?
first thing we have to do is check ourselves. We have to see what issues that we're having or bringing to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the things that we have to focus on. We have to focus on, how can I make this marriage better?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do we make it better? That's key to our slogan of never quitting, because I can make this marriage better by instantly. For those who are in young marriages, first 5 years you're still in a young marriage, instantly stop micromanaging, and communicate more. Stop trying to dictate to the other person what they should be doing on a daily basis, because you live in the same household, under the same roof, 24 hours a day. You go to work, you come home, you cook, all that stuff. You're doing all this stuff under the same roof. Micromanaging is going to get old quick. Okay, so it's better for you to think about, what, how can we help each other? Because a lot of times, people have issues, personal issues, that they won't share with other people to get help. So they're trying to figure all this stuff out on their own, and it's causing more of a strain on the other person, because the other person is like, man, what are you doing? But they don't know what your issue is. So in this dynamic of marriage, it's better to communicate. Say, you know what, babe, this is what I'm saying I should have done. You know what? We come from different backgrounds. How can I help you? Or is there anything that you need help with? First of all, don't presume that they automatically need your help with something. If you come with the approach of, you automatically need my help, that could potentially start a new fire. So it's better to come in a non-offensive, humble way, so that they won't be on defense immediately before the communication ever starts.
So what are some of the main issues that comes up in arguments, especially in new marriages?
I think
I know finances.
Definitely.
It's like the key thing.
Yeah, finances.
Mm-hmm.
Just personal habits.
Desires. Materialistic. Oh my goodness, we can go on and on.
Stuff you want to buy with.
Keeping
goes
up
back
with
to money.
The Joneses.
Children. When to start families. I know some people that are, we'll build up our careers first, and then we'll have children. But one thing I know, that time flies, and you can't get the time that has already been spent back. So, if you're wanting to have children, I would definitely, I would want to preface it with this. If you're able to have children, it's a wonderful thing. If you're not, well, you can still have a happy marriage. I don't want to say that that's a deal breaker. But even if there are some challenges in having children, that's still an opportunity for you as husband and wife to be united as one. There's nothing that can stop you from being as close as you want to be. Any deficiency, any lack, is because you have to make the decision. You know what? I love this person that I want to spend the rest of my life with, so nothing can overshadow that. But some of the other things are, if having children and when to have them, and your career, and how far do you want to go to career, and where do you want to be at a certain age. All that stuff, I think it's cool in theory, but in reality, I think if you put those hard and fast rules on stuff, then you might miss out on some other things. And one of those things for me that's most important is the bond between your wife and your wife, as speaking from the man's position. I've taken this position in our marriage, is that I wanted to have a happy family first. I wanted to have a happy home life first. So that meant I had to make specific decisions in terms of my career choices.
Joyful, peaceful.
Yeah, yes. That would contribute to that. If you work 200 hours a week and you making all the money that you can, hey, that's great. But don't be surprised if your home life is less than perfect, because you're investing in certain areas. So we all know you get out what you put in. If you put a little time in investing in your wife, then I don't know if you can really honestly expect to have a loving relationship where you guys can talk about anything. You can be honest with each other, even with those things that are difficult to talk about, and still keep going. Right, and I think that's the place where you really want to be as regards to those hard times. You know what? We can talk about this. You did something to make me really upset, and I thought we had discussed it. Hash it out, and then to keep going like it was never there.
Well, it's different for each household. First of all, I think there really has to be agreement. In a marriage with the husband and the wife. If you guys agree and it's okay that he's been 10 hours, 15 hours away from home and the wife is content with it, the husband is content with it, then so be it. Everybody has a different path to follow, but ultimately, it's just like any relationship. The time that you put in it is going to show. Mm-hmm. But I would think I didn't focus enough on just how you feel in those hard times. I just want to call out to those people who are really going through some tremendously hard times in their marriage, and it feels like this cannot be it, because I was there emotionally. Everything just felt terrible. And most people, that's the breaking point where they draw out, they give up, they throw in the towel at that moment. But I promise you, as bad as you feel, as life feels terrible, just torn apart, it can get better, because I'm a walking testament of it, because I know from experience that this marriage was tough. And not just in the beginning, but through years out, it was tough. It was really tough. And I endured, I prayed, I trusted God, and breakthrough came. Breakthrough came. And I'm telling you, breakthrough can come for you. So just continue to trust God, continue to stay the course, hold on to your marriage, do whatever you have to do that's within limits of you walking upright with God as well, and just trust that it will work out.
Yeah, we definitely want to do things that are honoring God in our choices. But I think what I'm hearing her wanting to hear maybe from the male side a little bit more is that, I swallow a lot of things. She's able to articulate maybe a little bit more of the emotional side, which is not uncommon for females in terms of how they process those difficult things.
Men can process it by swallowing too. They get ulcers, they get different things.
Well, yeah, I'm not referring to that. What I'm saying is that I do have a response to those things that have been difficult, and is that my way of processing that is to really again try to fix it. I would say in a way that is, I think, has been a little bit more productive than in times past, where it's a little bit less more of me. And I go back to, again, my relationship with the Lord is that I've been more reliant upon the Lord, because, as she said, we haven't been at the place that we are today. We haven't been at this glorious place since day one. No, we haven't. There have been numerous infractions, if I can use that word, by her and by me that has, I've done things that made her upset, and she's done things that have made myself upset. And I think the one thing that has always been there for me is that I've loved her and I've been upset with her. Yes, let's not lie about that. No, that's not the case. But there's always been, under all of that stuff, that needle in a haystack example, I felt like that needle sometime, where all these other issues were, and the needle is in reference to my love, was hidden by all these other things. And I knew somewhere deep within me, with all that other stuff going on as a man, that love was still there. Even, differences in raising the children and different ideologies about how we're going to handle that. And me being a strong-willed person, wanting to overpower, that from her. I had to fight against that as well. But even in that fight, for me, I know that I still loved her, and that I wanted, again, as I said, I wanted to get married when I was 18. I'm now 36, 37. So I've been married for a little while now.
You were 21, right?
I got married when I was 21. Yeah, as I said earlier. But yeah,
I was 19.
it's been difficult. You know, it's been a lot of times where, as I just did, you know, taking breaths. You know, just getting
Because we got to work on ourselves, right? It's
get to yourself. You know, yeah.
Working on ourselves concerning those arguments, those issues with our spouse. How can we respond differently where we can still get along and get along well?
Mm-hmm. So just to recap, I mean, some of those ways, men, if you're having difficulties or struggles with in your early young marriage or long marriage, what have you,
Because trials come at any point.
to any age and to any.
Hey, not saying that our marriage is gonna be all gravy and just from this point on. We know that trials and tribulations come, and it's just how we're gonna deal with them.
Well, it's gonna be all gravy for me because I have a better understanding. Again, that's not to say that there won't be times where we get upset, but it's always going to be from a place of love and respect and honor for me towards my actions towards my wife, because you have to invest in your relationship, and you invest in that in different ways. Of course, time, how you communicate. You know what? Try this. I guarantee you, it'll bring some positive fruit. Just go ask your wife, you know, how she's feeling, you know, tell her how you're feeling, tell her about some things all these are different occasions, you know, tell her some things you might be struggling with, and, you know, ask her opinion. You know, that makes your spouse feel like you value them, and that brings you guys a little closer. I tell you, it's a good thing. But in terms of those hard times that we've been talking about, you know, it's good to have a friend. Men, you know, me personally, I don't have a lot of friends, but there are people that I respect their opinion and I value their opinion, where I can talk to them about some things that I'm struggling with, because they have similar situations. I mean, that they're married, they have families, so they can relate to what I'm saying, and they can encourage me when I can't sometimes maybe not encourage myself because that issue is so fresh. But hard times is just what it said. It's a hard time. It's not hard forever. It's hard time. So you have to have the stamina and keep this at your mind. If you love your spouse, that has to always be on your mind. Mm-hmm. Regardless of whatever going on. You know, if you can just shake it off and say, you know what, she really made me mad. We made this decision to do this and she did something else, or we agreed on a budget and she went over the budget. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? That's gonna set us back. Money, temporary.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? All of it's temporary. But your relation, you get whoever your wife is right now. That's the only one Crystal Harris I'm ever going to have. You understand what I'm saying? So all that other stuff is just temporary. Mm-hmm. You got to treat it as such. You have to value the person more than any of the other things, because that stuff can be replaced.
Yeah, when we're in the trials, when we're in that moment, it seems keyword. It just lasts forever. Mm-hmm. But when you go back and you look over it after you came through that trial and that issue, and you look back on it, it's like, it didn't really seem like it was just for a moment. It didn't seem like it was that long. But when you're in the fire, when you're in the trial, it seemed like it takes forever to get out of it. So just trust God that, you know, this too shall pass. It shall pass.
I have been Dr. Courtney Harris.
I'm Crystal Harris.
And we are encouraging you to never quit.